Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to show some examples of derivative of function using rules, right? So let's practice. So let's say we have f of x equal 3x squared minus 7x, right? So now how are we going to process when I have to find the derivative f prime of x? So f prime of x is going to be 3x squared minus 7x prime, okay, which is the derivative of the difference between 3x squared and 7x, which is 3x squared prime minus 7x prime, right? But as I said in class, you can keep the constant 3, you can write down 3 and you multiply by the derivative of x squared, right? Minus 7 multiplied by the derivative of x, right? So now, what is the derivative of x squared? You can apply here the power rule, which is 2 times x to the power of 2 minus 1, right? Multiplied by negative 7, and the derivative of x is 1, right? So it would be 3 times 2 is 6, 2 minus 1 is 1, so we have just 6x, and negative 7 times 1 is negative 7. And here is the derivative of f, which is f prime of x, right? Let's do another example. Now let's make another example. F of x equal 3x plus 7 over 4x. Now let's find the derivative. Would be f prime of x gonna be, here we can apply the quotient rule, right? The quotient rule, which is if you have f over g prime, would be f prime g minus f g prime over g squared, right? And f prime x is gonna be 3x plus 7 prime times 4x minus 3x plus 7 times 4x prime over 4x. This looks like you do f prime, which is 3x plus 7 times g, which is 4x, minus f of x times g prime over 4x squared. Now we'll have 3x plus 7, its derivative would be, you have to find the derivative of 3x first, and the derivative of 3x equal to 3, and the derivative of 7 equal to 0. So you can do, if you want 3 plus 0, I'm just showing you the step, right? Multiply by 4x. Now minus, you can do 3x plus 7, and the derivative of 4x is like 4, because you can keep the constant 4 and find the derivative of x, which is 1. You have just 4, right? Over 4x squared. Now you do 3 times 4x, which is 12x, and here you can expand the brackets. You do 4 times, like you can bring the 4 here, you have negative 4 times 3, which is negative 12x, and negative 4 times positive 7 will be negative 28 over 4x squared. And 12x minus 12x is 0. At the end you find negative 28 over, but you got 4x squared, the 4 times, the 4 squared will be 16, and the x squared will be x squared, right? And you can simplify if you want by 4 is 7, you have negative 7, and here by 4 you got 4x squared. And here is the derivative of the function f prime of x would be negative 7 4x squared. Okay, but here if you don't understand what I did, you can you can just you can just like, if you want, bring the 4 here before. So like, you can write down 3 plus 0 is 3. You have 3 times 4x minus 4 times 3x plus 7 over 4x squared. That's what I did. And you have 3 times 4 is 12x. Negative 4 times 3x will be negative 12x. Negative 4 times 7 will be negative 28, right? And you do 12x minus 12x, which is 0. Negative 28 over 4x squared. But like 4 squared is 16, x squared is x squared. And here we simplify by 4 top and bottom, so we have negative 7 over 4x squared. That's why the answer is these following expressions, right? Powers, like you have the chain rule, so you have f of x equal 3x minus 5 to the power of 4. And we have to find the derivative, right? So here we're going to apply the chain rule, right? The chain rule, if you want to find the derivative, because if you have u to the power of n prime, and we suppose that u is a function, u to the power of n prime would be n times u prime times u to the power of n minus 1, right? So here, if you take the example, we can have f of x equal to u to the power of 4, because we suppose that u equals 3x minus 5, and the n of the power is like 4, right? So if you want to find out, the derivative would be f prime of x equal 3x minus 5 to the power of 4, I forgot the power of 4 prime, which is equal to 4 multiplied by 3x minus 5 prime multiplied by 3x minus 5 to the power of 4 minus 1, right? So what is the answer? You have 4, but the derivative of 3x minus 5, as you know, 3x is like, its derivative equal to 3, right? And the derivative of negative 5 is 0. So you have just 3 multiplied by 3x minus 5, and 4 minus 1 would be 3, right? So you find 4 times 3 is 12, it's going to be 12, 3x minus 5 cubed. Okay, this is f prime of x. And apply what we said, the chain rule. Okay, is the chain rule. U to the power of n prime equals n times u prime to the power of n minus 1. Alright? Okay, let's make another. Let's say we have f of x equal square root of x plus 5x squared to the power of negative 7. Right? As you know, here we can simplify, we can write down the expression again by, if you can transform the square root of x by x to the power of 1 over 2, right? Plus 5x squared to the power of negative 7. Here the power is negative 7, and when you have to find the derivative, you do f prime of x would be the derivative of x to the power of 1 over 2 plus 5x squared to the power of negative 7 and brackets prime, right? And here we're going to apply, the power is negative 7. We still like using the chain rule, which is like u, as I said, to the power of n prime would be n times u prime times u to the power of n minus 1, right? So now here we can do like x to the power 1 over 2 would be, you can just like do, the power is negative 7 would be negative 7, like n is negative 7 times x to the power of 1 over 2 plus 5x squared prime multiplied by x to the power of 1 over 2 plus 5x squared to the power of negative 7, negative 1, because you do n minus 1 at the end. You n is negative 7, you do negative 7 minus 1, right? So now what is the next process? You do negative 7, and now what is the derivative of x to the power 1 over 2 plus 5x squared, right? So x to the power 1 over 2, you can do the power rules, will be 1 over 2 times x to the power 1 over 2 minus 1 plus, and the derivative of 5x squared will be 5 times 2 x to the power of 2 minus 1, because we have the power rule x squared, right? Multiply by x to the power of 1 over 2 plus 5x squared to the power of, so negative 7, negative 1 will be negative 8, right? At the end, we find negative 7, so you have 1 over 2 x to the power of 1 over 2 minus 1 will be negative 1 over 2 plus 5 times 2 is 10x, because 2 minus 1 is 2, you have 10x, factor x to the power of 1 over 2 plus 5x squared to the power of negative 8, right? And I think here, if you want, you can expand expression, so you have negative 7 times 2, like 1 over 2 will be negative 7 times 1 is negative 7 over 2 here, the power of negative 1 over 2. Negative 7 times 10 will be negative 70x to the power times x to the power 1 over 2 plus 5x squared to the power of negative 8. And I hope you can stop here as the answer. And this is the derivative of the function using the power rule. So what I asked you to do, you can just like do some step and like do it again. You have f of x equal cosine of 4x squared minus 3x. And here we have the chain rule for trigonometric function, right? Chain rule for trigonometric function. So if you have cosine of u prime would be u prime times, or we have minus u prime sine of u, and sine of u prime would be u prime cosine of u. Okay, now here for my example, we have f of x equal to cosine of this, right? So now it would be like f prime of x gonna be the derivative of cosine of 4x squared minus 3x prime. So what is u? U is like 4x squared minus 3x. So the derivative would be 4x squared minus 3x prime, and you have the minus before because we're looking for the derivative of cosine of u. We have cosine of u equal to minus u prime sine of u. You do minus this prime sine of 4x squared minus 3x. So I just like said, if you want to find the derivative of cosine using the chain rule, so we have cosine of u here. U is like 4x squared minus 3x, right? So you do cosine of u prime would be negative u prime sine cosine of sine u, negative u prime sine of u. So we have cosine of 4x squared minus 3x prime would be negative 4x squared minus 3x prime sine 4x squared minus 3x. So now, what is the derivative of 4x squared minus 3x? So 4x squared minus 3x will be, you do 2 times 4, you do 2 times 4, which is 8x, and the derivative of 3x is 3, you have negative 3, right, sine of 4x squared minus 3x. So now, if you want, you can get in, like, you can put inside the negative one, the negative inside will be negative 8x, negative times negative will be positive 3 sine of 4x squared minus 3x. And this is the derivative of the function cosine of 4x squared minus 3x. So if you want, you can make another examples for sine quickly. So you can do f of x equal to sine of 3x plus 1, right? So f prime of x would be, as I said, 3x plus 1 prime cosine of 3x plus 1. So now what is the derivative of 3x plus 1? The derivative of 3x is 3 and the derivative of 1 is 0. You have just 3 cosine of 3x plus 1. This is f prime of x, right? Okay. Now, the logarithm and the exponential function. So if you have f of x equal to ln of 3x squared minus 7x, okay? And we can apply the chain rule for ln function. The chain rule said like this is ln of u prime equal to 1 over u multiplied by u prime. So here u is 3x squared minus 7, right? So f prime of x would be 1 over 3x squared minus 7x multiplied by the derivative of 3x squared minus 7x prime, right? Because u is 3x squared minus 7x, you do 1 over u, 3x squared minus 7 times 3x squared minus 7 prime. Let's find out the derivative of 3x squared minus 7x. So it would be 1 over 3x squared minus 7x, and the derivative of this will be 3x squared. You do 2 times 3 is 6x, because 2 minus 1 is 6x, minus, and the derivative of 7x will be 7, because you keep the constant negative 7. At the end, we find 6x minus 7 over 3x squared minus 7x. This is the derivative f prime of x. Chain rule for logarithm function, right? Now let's work on for exponential function. So you have f of x equals exponential of 4x minus 5. Here also the chain rule for exponential function, the chain rules would be exponential of u prime equal to u prime exponential of u. So since f of x equal exponential of 4x minus 5, so its derivative f prime of x would be 4x minus 5 prime multiplied by exponential of 4x minus 5. So question, what is the derivative of 4x minus 5? You do 4x, its derivative equal to 4, and the derivative of negative 5 is 0. You have 4 multiplied by 4x minus 5. At the end, you find f prime of x would be 4 exponential of 4x minus 5. So what are you supposed to do, class? Please do it everything again if you have time, because we have time to make a revision basically.